told you to nick a van, Eddie, not a van full of boxes.
Didn't know that, honest.
Here is a newsflash. In tonight's bank robbery, police have confirmed the theft of safety deposit boxes whose contents are thought to be worth close to £1 million. All those concerned have been arrested, but the whereabouts of the boxes remains a mystery.
Respectable businessman. I don't see why you've got to bring work home on a Saturday.
That's the hallmark of a true executive, Aunt Ethel.
You'll get all marked innards if you get them filings in my pie crust. You been out all night again?
Yeah.
Still paying rent on that flat of yours?
I offered to look after it for him.
Yeah, and we know who we're, but you're not wasting your pocket money on port and lemons for the likes of her.
I'm learning to prefer mature women. Experience counts.
You've been warned about that sort of talk, my lad. Eddie?
Had a letter from Dad this morning. Got his own cell. He's assistant snout baron now.
Yeah, he's selling roll-ups with a government health warning on them. It's my idea. Marketing expertise. Excuse me, Aunt Ethel. It's the last will and testament of General Sir Aubrey d'Auberville Braithwaite Hobbs, who, being of sound mind...
Impossible, not if he was a general.
It was if he left nearly £250,000.
Anything else?
There's a letter to his solicitor. Money. Yeah, there's Swiss francs, big ones. There's a Geneva bank book.
Must have been giving yodeling lessons on the side.
Sometimes you two don't deserve to be British. General Sir Braithwaite Hobbs was one of our national heroes, as well as being the only officer to stand up for your Uncle Walter when he was falsely accused of trying to sell brown boot polish as condensed cocoa. He died yesterday. Go on, read about him, if you can find anything but the racing pages.
As the last hero by Veronica, an authentic swashbuckler passed from our heritage yesterday when General Sir Braithwaite Hobbs died. They called him Boot and Saddle, with gout in one foot, a gleaming riding boot on the other, a horse under him, and sabre swinging, he single-handedly liberated the Normandy village of Cretes-sur-Mer, population 340, as panzer tanks fled. Critics say he was lost. Nobody disputes that he gave chase to the tanks in a commandeered armoured car while the grateful villagers barbecued his horse. He was next seen at the liberation of Berlin and went on to a profitable career in war surplus equipment.
I think we should all salute.
As a solicitor, I thought the coroner was nicely restrained, Major Eathing. Death due to natural causes, possibly as the result of overexertion.
Which is not uncommon in the bridal suite at the Alchester.
Oh, well, it's all those heavy breakfast trays. And his social secretary, the impeccable Miss Craig, did testify that the General had been working very hard recently.
Good thing she was there. Old Boot and Saddle. He died smiling, anyway.
Which is more than the bereaved family will be doing while I try and sort things out. There's a new will in a safe deposit box with some other documents that I wish I knew about. The box has been stolen. It could get very compromising. So I may need help from your department, quietly.
Quiet influence is what we're best at.
He says here that the General's interest in things, military, began with his father's proneness in the Ashanti Wars. What were they?
It's when the natives fought fair with spears and things, and we were the only ones who got the bullets.
When we expand, Uncle Turtle, will I be entitled to a social secretary like this?
You're more likely to end up with a wife like that. Peek on her, you could open beer cans with.
Mum says national heroes are entitled to be dirty old men.
Well, they are. That's why they put their statues so high up. You're here to work, not drool. Eddie, give him some passports. You will now slope out to the airport, the seedier-looking banks and those cutthroat exchange bureaus up west and change a bundle at a time. Make like a disappointed tourist and turn this handsome currency into the diminutive bus tickets the English have been reduced to. Now, you're supposed to be Swiss, so try and look cunning and thrifty. Hold a bar of chocolate and sort of ski up to the counter. Oh. He is willing. He's learning to count. But he's not the cloth managerial materials cut from.
How much was there?
Oh, depending on the rate of exchange and the charges they fleece you with. And if I've pushed the right buttons on that gadget, about 18 grand. Pounds. Yeah, and there's 14 grand more than I owe you at what sounds like an accommodation address. Don't understand it. And some invoices.
What about the last will and testament?
No, one problem at a time, Eddie. That's the approved method of avoiding executive stress.
Last week it was little yellow tablets.
As the late General's wife...
Widow?
Dare you interrupt me?
He was always punctilious about rank.
Always the well-trained social secretary, whose duties I never fully understood.
I have the necessary diplomas.
I was privy...
And that's the right
to
word.
all aspects, even the most intimate, of the late and much mourned General's personal affairs, both inside business and out. Here is the will.
Ah, yes. Drawn up at his club 15 years ago. I remember the port stains. However, it has since been superseded by a new document. Here is a letter so testifying, Major.
The leaves on the trees outside the gun room look like the baby vultures learning their trade whom my death will benefit. You, Fotheringay, will implement every last clause and comma in this new disposition of my effects. That is an order. Braithwaite Hobbs.
I was there when he wrote it. It was the time he nearly shot the new under butler's bootlaces off for forgetting the gentleman's relish.
Speak when requested, please, Arnold.
No, Colour Sergeant. Go on.
Proper staff officer job. Sit rep, command post, fallback, reinforcements, contingency positioning.
What did it say?
I just initialed it, ma'am.
As did I, and that's not the same as memorizing it.
Then he put it into a safe deposit box, which has since been pinched.
Mr. Fotheringay, what is the exact amount of the money involved?
Substantial.
Arnold?
A lot.
When do we get it?
Well, in law, and given the evidence of this letter, it's probable that a probate judge will declare that your husband died intestate.
He was never that.
Courtroom terminology.
How long do we have to wait?
2 or 3 years. Probate is a slow process.
And what do we live on in the meantime?
You, my dear, will undoubtedly exploit your undoubted assets. And I may have to dispose of some of my more treasured possessions.
Under Inland Revenue supervision, death duties, all that.
If we're picking his bones, leave me out. I was his platoon runner, his batman, gamekeeper, bailiff, where the bullets were. We soldiered and that was enough. I want nothing. Oh, and he was right about the vultures in the trees. When the bully beef went rotten, we used to throw the tins at them.
How much was the old boy worth?
Between us, 200 thou, give or take.
Not bad.
Plus the suspect bundle on top, Major. Now, I handle his investments, and they did not run to bridal suites and some of his other expenditures. You know, I liked him.
Errol Flynn with gout.
I'm sorry to intrude, gentlemen, at this sad moment of profound mourning, but Mr. Fotheringay's office told me he was here.
How much does it cost to have a secretary strangled?
I'm Cyril Bolton Gray. My card.
Charity with Discretion Limited.
Oh, high-class collection box rattlers.
We prefer to consider ourselves a tiny bastion for those on fixed incomes whom the welfare state is engulfing.
It's a living.
The late and much lamented general was kind enough to show a deep interest in one of our smaller works, the Foundation for the Widows of Indigent Cavalrymen. He visited many of them personally. A great comforter.
Teddy bear with a moustache.
And you would like to know if your foundation is mentioned in the will?
Only partly, sir. He dealt with some of the more deserving cases himself, by standing order.
How many?
Oh, 20 or so.
Yes, well, we will let you know, Mr. Bolton Gray.
Most kind. And again, my deepest condolences.
The Widows of Indigent Cavalrymen?
Old boot and saddle.
Yes, but where the hell did he get the money?
Commissioner, I am massively aware of our public image. I read your circular on it nightly over my hot drink. And I help at least 3 old ladies across the road every day, whether they want to cross or not. Yes, I know that maximum cooperation is the watchword. And if you tell me to extend it to Major David Reething, who is very high in military intelligence, and nephew of the late General Sir Braithwaite Hobbs, I shall not only cooperate, I shall make sure there's no lint on my socks. It could be about a safe deposit box. You astonish me, Commissioner. No news. Just the usual 82-hour week. Yes, sir. Who? Oh, I beg your pardon, sir. Roger and out. Yeah. That was quick. March 'em in.
Turtle, you worry me. All this reading. You'll end up with a tin cup. First is this funny coloured paper every morning.
Financial Times.
Full of figures. Then you make me chase halfway around London to get dictionaries in Czechoslovakian and Swahili. And for the price, I could have got a 10-year subscription to Timeform.
It works a reference. Your investment, Eddie.
Figure got beat in France again. All these horses breathing garlic over him. Must be some very lonely horses in France. Like the ones I back.
Eddie, I am trying to translate invoices and percentages.
That'll do. Off. Why give your head a hernia? Look, we got the will, right? And it's in English, right? Even if it's in solicitor's English, which takes some following, what we do is find the geezer on it who's going to cop the most loot, and then tell him he can have the will if we can have some of the loot.
It's stage 2.
Stages are where birds take their clothes off.
Not in commercial circles.
Any sort of circle, I don't care.
Yeah, well, I do. Eddie, look, in that box, there were these invoices. Swiss francs, an accommodation address, and a Geneva bank book with 50 grand in it.
There's bound to be some funny business in a country where they make cheese with holes in it. Let's just find the geezer.
Later.
You're the mastermind.
And if you stop rabbiting on like Mrs. Higginson's parrot before it had its operation, I will tell you why. From these invoices, the hero of Crédit-sur-Mer...
With one boot.
...was a very respectable intermediary between the people who wanted to buy guns and the people who wanted to sell them. The Swiss geld is his commission.
I thought he was supposed to be a true patriot.
Yeah, I know. Though, in fairness, he did refuse to take knobkerries and assegais in part exchange, and that makes London and Birmingham a bit safer. But nevertheless, General Sir Braithwaite Hobbs was still a gun runner. there should be a letter or small package addressed to General Sir Braithwaite Hobbs.
But in this class of neighbourhood, mate, even the Salvation Army are lucky if they get as high as privates.
There's no harm in looking.
The one he wants is for a plain Mr. Hobbs.
Oh, that one? Well, why didn't he say then?
New to the job.
Aye. He looks a bit weedy for it, doesn't he?
Which is something you can't say for the pictures in your magazines.
You should see the lot I'm getting in next week.
Very interesting, my good man, but could I just have the package? I'll leave you two to discuss literature.
But you can't. I'm taking it. And you? 20 as usual, Taffy?
Thank you very much. Oh, would you save the stamps for my little granddaughter?
Be glad to.
Thank you.
I'm going to hang you on the vermin rack. See what makes you squeak.
Sounds unhealthy. The vermin and that.
John, what you do is let go of my associate. He bruises easy. Me, I don't bruise at all.
One of the berserkers.
Hey, now wait a minute now. I don't want any trouble in here.
There are enough navels in those magazines. Contemplate them.
20 years ago, I'd have bruised you.
You could have tried. And I didn't start all this yokel patter about vermin wrecks. Another package.
Then talk.
Listen, anyway.
Over a good fry-up's best. All relaxing.
Not a bad funeral, as funerals go.
Oh, I thought the tribute was a bit bloodthirsty.
Oh, I don't know. I rather like that bit about men of prodigious valor in far-flung savage lands, smiting the Philistine hip and thigh.
I suppose. Anyway, it beats calling them underdeveloped and lending them money we never get back.
David! Mr. Fotheringay, you really should be mingling, accepting commiserations.
My fault, Aunt Brunella. Business.
The will. Most of the local tradespeople have left, and Jenkins is about to serve my special punch. I only make it for births, nuptials, and interments, you know.
Aha. The General's idea. Half the population of this village wear thick spectacles because of Aunt Prunella's special punch. Elderberry wine, Windfall apples, Shebeen whiskey, and Cyprus Madeira.
Thank you.
I can understand Samantha Craig not turning up, but I'd have expected Colour Sergeant Arnold to be here in full spit and polish.
Oh, didn't you hear the racket?
No?
4 o'clock this morning. He lowered the flag of his cottage to half-mast, sounded the last post and took off down the London road.
Notice the car?
One of the old Bentleys.
Nicholas, David. Look, a very old Bentley belonging to Braithwaite Hobbs. You've got the registration. It's floating around London. Find it and follow it, breathing very, very gently. All points, all men. Except for the 8-man squad and Samantha Craig. How the hell should I know? His club and the Cenotaph would be good places to start.
I wonder how many police forces we've really got in this country. And how many people ought to be frightened.
A lot.
You remind me of a chap I was with in the old 14th. Lost his rifle, never bothered to apply for another. Used to wreck his feet, grenades and a bayonet were enough.
Sounds like my Uncle Booter. Got sick of deserting. Bit bow-legged. Half of one ear missing.
Never saw him without his helmet. Well pulled down now you mention it.
He was the sensitive side of the family.
My name's Arnold, Colour Sergeant.
Small world.
There will now be a short monograph with coloured slides on the memoirs of Field Marshal Lord Montgomery.
Of Alamein. Thirsty place, Alamein.
No need to stand up, tea. If you're in a hurry, you should have said so on your way in. I presume you'll want your usual 2 plates. 4 eggs, double ration of bacon, sausages, chips, beans, fried bread.
Yes, please, Nelly. Sounds a reasonable sort of snack to me.
2 gannets. And I presume you'll want your usual weak tea and underdone toast. Oh, how Ethel worries about you.
Yes, Nelly.
Nice place, this.
Nothing fancy. Nelly thinks cordon blue's a line of policemen. How'd you get over here?
British Army fashion. On my feet and have to do reconnaissance. Left the General's card at his club, then quick march. Funny place, London. You're always hanging about for hours for buses.
Well, optimism lives.
Here we are. Yours is just coming. Won't be long.
Now, while you two are starting the preliminary heats of the carbohydrate chonking championships of this borough, I will try and evaluate the situation.
That's the way to do it. Fair baiting, this. I underestimated him, you know. British staff officer material. Only he's bright.
Yeah, look at the polish on my head.
Well, it's always a good reference.
Now, I take it to avoid bloodshed that we're entering into a temporary business association. And all these begin with a gesture of goodwill. To cover any mutual distrust, which usually exists. English money. That makes a change. 14 grand. That's 4.5 each for me and my fellow director, and 5 for you, colour sergeant. I mean, after all, you've had the travelling expenses.
That's fair, more than fair.
Now, this bank book. We need your help.
Not me. I'm a bit of a linguist, but most of it's from my boot end keeping the punk well off his chart, boy. No, Miss Craig's the Parleyvaux expert.
Miss Samantha Craig, age 33, social secretary and assistant master of foxhounds. Foxhounds? Oh. Unsuccessfully cited as co-respondent in the Braithwaite Hobbs divorce case.
Lady Prunella tried to climb the ladder to take some photographs. I'd sawed it through.
Neat, but not gaudy.
She's only in plaster for a month. The case failed, the General said I'd saved in thousands.
Yeah, well, I'm sure of it. I keep telling Eddie. Do you know he's nearly been married 4 times, you know?
Straight up. We had to set fire to a registry office once.
Oh, it's the Orsini family. It were mob-handed.
Maybe wear a top hat.
Yes, Miss Craig will do it. How much in the account?
50 grand. That's 20 for her. I mean, it'll be her on a forgery charge, and we'll split the rest.
Equitable.
It's all wages.
You see? I mean, despite VAT, the Class 4 levy, our ineligibility for any form of social security, the industrious self-employed will survive. Stage 1 almost completed.
What, stage 2?
We sell the will. For a commission, of course, to its principal beneficiary.
And who's that?
A Major David Rethin.
You can count me out and I will dismiss sharply. There's some hard men in military intelligence, but he is the hardest. He'd hang you by one toenail for a fortnight, then tell you should consult a chiropodist.
One toenail?
One.
You stopped eating your fried bread.
You're welcome to it.
So, what happens, Turtle?
I'll have another look at the will.
You'll think of something.
Notice you ordered everything grilled.
Seemed appropriate, Major. I'm not lunched by the War Office Gestapo every day.
You sound like my late uncle.
Oh, I should. He taught me. Not soldiering as I know it, he used to say. Creeping round waste paper baskets, reading other chaps' letters. Listening to 'em talk on the telephone, and then hitting 'em with rubber truncheons instead of charging at 'em fair and square.
Sounds like a Victorian adventure story for small boys.
Oh, he was that all right. In the flesh. He was a little boy. And when he grew out of toy soldiers, they gave him real ones. An individual. One of the last.
Samantha, why you and him? You could be missing out on the Arab trade. Very lucrative, I'm told.
Perhaps because I'm an individual too. Even when faced with offensive innuendo from a desk warrior who debases the word intelligence. I also loved him.
Sorry. I mean that.
With all the emotion of the Greenwich time signal.
Fotheringay reckons that the General's lifestyle was a long way out in front of his pension and investments.
Bodgy used to say that if he'd wanted to examine money instead of spend it, he'd have been a printer or a bank clerk.
How would you feel if I were to tell you that the General, according to my information, was the middleman in some rather dubious arms deal?
Not in the least surprised. Bloodshed was his business, and a grateful country honoured him for it. Why change morality when you retire? Besides, the politicians are selling arms every day and bragging about it. And some of the profits goes to pay your salary and theirs. So don't get toffee-nosed, Major. You can't afford to be. Thank you for delicious lunches.
What's all this about the General? And how did somebody like you get my private and unlisted telephone number?
Joey, the GPO.
He's our communications advisor. He works shifts. It's handy if he knows somebody's away and he wants to do some thieving on his own account.
Only a ground floor man, though. Nothing sprawcy.
Does a nice line of visiting car trays and front halls. Might get an Aunt Ethel one for her anniversary.
Uncle Walter would like that. Make a change from bricks with writing on them arriving through the window.
I've told you, Eddie, those days are over. They've been replaced by telex. Which, by the way, is our next investment for the office.
Office? You too?
Yes, madam. We are not just your fly-by-night entrepreneurs, working from stolen hotel stationery in a lost property briefcase.
Then why the rush-hour scramble to get me in this taxi?
Because, lady, 6 or 8 very professional gentlemen have been following you all day.
You expect me to make an identification from pictures as blurred as this? Where did your embryo James Bond take them from? The back of a camel or a parachute?
Some small man jogged his elbow, trod on the camera and disappeared.
Appearance, characteristics?
Nondescript.
Oh, that's lots of help. But agile?
You could say that.
Oh, I don't know. It's difficult to tell. It might be Razor Eddie Malone. It might.
And the small man, the camera jumper?
Turtle. But it's not his style. He despises vandalism.
Know where to find them?
Perhaps.
For a superintendent of police, you're not very confident.
Son, I've stood in a lot of witness boxes over a lot of years, and I've nailed a lot of villains. And the only certainties in life are death, taxes, and judges' rules of evidence. And lately, the last two have become suspect. It's not a parade ground where everybody jumps into the right place when you shout. Come on.
Now, what is it that you two want?
To avail ourselves of your services, madam.
Well, I've been propositioned in some places, but this has to be top of the list.
We like it. Friendly. Good class of criminal uses it.
Thank you.
We understand that you have the authority to make withdrawals from the late General Sir Braithwaite Hobbs' Swiss bank account.
Well, that was before the bank book and his little black box disappeared.
And just as mysteriously, reappeared.
$50 grand. 20 for me.
Agreed.
First class air travel.
Of course.
Accommodation.
Penthouse overlooking Lake Geneva.
Organisation. It's style.
How do you know I won't just skip with all the money?
We don't, madam. We do know that the General remembered you in his will. And if you have it away on tiptoe with a Swiss green, I have a supply of invisible ink.
If you're on.
Eddie, blow! Through the fire escape and across McCluskey scrapyard. Oh, what a great pleasure. Inspector Rafferty. How nice to see you. Good evening. Welcome.
I'm interviewing you, not the other way round. Where's Razor Eddie Malone?
Scotland. He went up there this morning.
I mean, somebody's wearing a bicycle chain for a necktie.
Oh, no, Inspector. No, Eddie's changed his ways. He's thinking of becoming a tourist guide. He's gone up there to reconnoitre the Highland Games.
How to toss cavers on people's heads. He already knows how to throw hammers. Oh, well, Major. They were lousy photos, and from the back, and as I told you, the hunch was vague.
What about this chap? Nondescript fits him?
Can't all be lady newsreaders.
Where have you been for the last 2 hours?
In here. Ask anybody.
I've started to worry about the time he stops here.
And they'd all sing the same tune.
And I think he's a lying little sod, and I'd like to take him somewhere quiet and really put the squeeze on him.
Yes, I'm sure you would, Major. But I'm not in the army. I've never even applied for the job on the buses. As far as I'm concerned, you're just a pointy-nosed fellow in a pub who left his manners at home with his uniform.
Yes, Detective Sergeant Tolland, I can hear you. My breath is bated and I'm dutifully licking my pencil to write it all down. And yes, I agree, it is a concrete block of an alibi. Razor Eddie Malone reporting the theft of a hire car to Glasgow Central Police and raving about his citizens' rights abroad. Turtle, oh, he's given me as a reference late yesterday afternoon when he tried to get into the library at the British Museum. Yes, that is a lot of alibi and a lot of trouble. And as far as we know, they haven't done anything. Or have they?
I thought menageries were supposed to be alive.
Not a menagerie. Gamekeeper's vermin rack.
So you're going to hand me to make me squeak?
Yes, that was before I realised that you were IC Operation Will and Testament.
Did you ask this Major Rethin to come on his own?
Yes, but don't worry. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Wood pigeon. It's more corn in the ear than a full-grown sheep.
When it gets the chance.
Do all those things live out there?
No. I wish they did. We got this in Tanganyika. Yes, the rifle misfired. I held its front legs and the general strangled it. Shame about old Tabby there. We tried to keep him as a pet, but he was partially kitchen boys. He got very expensive to feed. Must try and clean his teeth this weekend.
You asked to see me, Colour Sergeant Arnold. And I am used to your long, convincing, and totally fabricated explanations made on my late uncle's behalf over more than 25 years, but your version of this man's presence here had better be very, very good indeed.
I've taken up field sports.
In Fulham?
Very sophisticated district these days.
With some highly original tailors.
Yes, well, he said it would weather. I was hoping for grouse, mainly.
And you're 150 miles too far south.
a few might stray.
The game book, sir, is a keeper's property, I believe. A true record of birds bagged, coverts cleared, beaters compensated for stray pellets, etc., etc.
That's right.
Yes. Well, this gentleman has made me a very handsome offer for my game book and accompanying documents, and I have accepted.
As you're entitled to, Colour Son. Why involve me?
I think I walked the beats for an hour. There's been talk of gypsies on High Cross.
I think it's these other documents, Major. Now my property under signed receipt and with your agreement.
What documents?
It's about some arms sales your uncle ran as a bit of a sideline. See, the sergeant reckons it's your job to pinch geezers that go in for that sort of thing.
It is. And you want to sell them to me, is that it?
No, you can have them.
And do what?
Well, that's up to you. But where I come from, any fella that would shop his own uncle is about half a yard lower than an athlete's foot. I mean, the old boy was only trying to beat the system and spend it on champagne, and we're all entitled to try that. Those are the only copies. There's a nice fire in the grate. He must have liked you. I bequeath the bulk of my estate, as itemised below, to my nephew, Major David Richmond Rething, in a firm belief that he will now turn his fine gifts and aptitudes to the family tradition of real soldiering.
Don't tell me you've got the bloody will as well.
Oh, yes. And I will want money for that.
Yes, I thought there'd be a catch in it. How much?
Oh, say 10,000. That's a bit under 5% of what you're down for, and it's less than the old wigs and white collars had charged if you didn't have this.
Will you take a cheque?
It's made up of cash and we get it certified.
You could have asked for a lot more.
Oh, that's called greed, Major. Nobody ever went broke taking a profit. Hope I can find it again in all these pockets. Well, that one's big enough to keep a pack of hounds in.
Trespasser, sir. Claimed to be working for you.
He is. What do you hit him for?
Habit, sir. The General always said, never trust anybody with their eyes set close together. Look at his.
Well, I will when he gets them open. You better leave before then. You trod on his camera.
Only because I thought he was a peeping Tom.
He was.
You see? It always pays to check up on employees' references, Major.
Some of them retire and open tea shops, and then one buys their rock cakes for the servants, and then the servants start to leave. You are just permissible. But how did these two hobbledehoys gain admittance?
They're my security consultants, Lady Prunella.
And mine, ma'am.
Hello again. Drinks are there. Help yourself.
What's the hobbledehoy?
Somebody who limps on thick carpet.
Why don't she hang her glasses on her ears like everybody else?
It'd stop her eavesdropping.
Lady Prunella, Miss Craig, gentlemen. It is unusual, I know, for wills to be read, but this was at the General's express request. And at my discretion.
Get on with it.
I bequeath the bulk of my estate, as itemised below, to my nephew, Major David Richmond Rething.
What?
In the firm belief that...
No details, John.
Oh, as you wish. To my memorable wife, I leave the substantial roof over her substantial head.
I'm a pauper. Nothing more.
In my knowledge of the considerable investments made in her sister's name and fleeced from the housekeeping over the years. I also leave her the income from 2 properties in Bayswater, currently being managed as houses of ill fame by a Liechtenstein company. Should she take to herself a paramour, and may God have mercy on his soul, these Bayswater addresses are to be made available to him and a 20% discount arranged.
I shall contest that document with every means.
I'd wait till you see the takings from the houses, lady. I know Bayswater prices.
To my trusted and loyal comrade in arms these many years, Colour Sergeant Egbert Joseph Arnold, I bequeath the freehold of the cottage in which he now lives, my guns, medals, trophies, address books, £5,000 net, and the 300 cases of horse liniment currently stored in the tithe barn.
You didn't do too well.
We soldiered. That was enough.
To my social secretary, companion and friend, Miss Samantha Craig, I leave the memory of our page, the good years of Dom Perignon, £5,000, again net of any duty extorted by Her Majesty's leeches, and my second best pair of riding boots.
We didn't exactly push big boats out for you either.
Good years. What else do you need?
I'll fetch the boots, Ma'am.
Big deal. Check on jumbo sales while you're at it.
I'll see you all at the cottage.
The next item is the list of bequests and attributions to the Foundation for the Widows of Indigent Cavalrymen.
Surely that's superfluous, Mr. Fotheringay.
Read it, John.
I'm depending on it for the entire next issue of the House magazine.
Well, I shall go and telephone those Dagos in Liechtenstein.
£1,000 to Miss Arabella Girth, G-E-R-T-H, in fond memory of her appreciation of a passing fetlock and the virtues of chamomile straw for bedding. Ditto the on Mrs. Sterling Grimes as a tribute to a stimulating stirrup cup and a superb seat. David, are you sure?
Oh, yes. In memoriam.
Man and boy, desert and jungle, defeat and victory, dysentery and declarations. That was the General and me. You get to know a man's mind. The General.
That's horse liniment.
Only the label. The General.
The General. I think he's asking for water.
It can take your breath away if you're not used to it, you know. Army issue rum, 40 years old. Dugout juice. 2 tots of that. I've seen a man run amok with 20 yards of barbed wire wrapped around his chest and bend machine gun barrels with his bare hands.
I'll just inhale mine, if you don't mind.
Worth £100 a case, easy.
500, perhaps 6 even easier. Eddie, get on to Alfie cleaning fluid. Fancy labels, the high-class nightclub trade. We'll call it collapse.
I like that.
300 cases, was it?
4, in fact. And the General wasn't on the council for nothing. This cottage is on a prime site. I am sitting on £75,000 worth of development land. Look after the troops, the General always said.
We should have joined the army, Eddie.
Never fancied lace-up boots.
Speaking of which. Rubies.
Rubies?
Yes, we were passing this temple in Hyderabad, I think it was, and the General being a church-going man, and there was this idol.
There isn't a curse on them, is there?
Well, the old custodian jumped up and down a bit, but the General made it till he was 70, and I'm still here, aren't I?
Yes. I'll ask Aunt Ethel to have a word with Madame Zender next time she's down at Southend. Rubies they are. They're a bit blurred at the edges, but that's just fumes. I was breathing. They're worth 60,000 easy.
And free of death duties.
Of course.
I say, can you two really arrange all this?
It's our job, isn't it?
At 10%. And I've had occasion to remind you before, madam. We're not just your common old garden bag snatchers.
Only till a month ago.
Yep, but specialist entrepreneurs.
Good, I believe you. And you must stay with us till you've fixed it all up. Daddy's estate's only 20 miles away.
I thought only councils called places estates.
And I shall be standing by the blower, awaiting orders. Sir!
where the flying fishes play, and the dawn comes up like thunder south of China across the bay. La-da-dee-dee-dee.
Evening, Major. What section of the Official Secrets Acts are you going to wave at me now?
None, Inspector. I came in to tell you that I'm sorry I was snotty the other day. We were all worried about my uncle's will, and it could have got a bit nasty.
Were? Could have?
Yes. But we found it. It wasn't in his safe deposit box after all.
It wasn't?
No, it was in his keeper's game book.
And you're not worried about his box anymore?
Only marginally.
Marginally?
Yes. Oh, and I'm getting out of intelligence. Transferred to the General's old regiment. Can I buy you a drink to celebrate?
Why not? If I'm going to be confused, I might as well do it properly.
Wherever have you two been? You look worn out.
In the country, Aunt Ethel.
Yeah, it was a stately home weekend. Peacocks on the lawn, croquet, kedgeree and 3 types of tea for breakfast.
Must make a lot of washing up.
Exercise, 15 miles to the nearest betting shop.
The windows open at night.
Supposed to put roses in your cheeks.
Yeah, frostbite in the ankles is the real story.
You better start counting, George. You know you need the practice.
If I'd do it, it'd be on overtime.
There is no such thing as overtime when you're self-employed.
That looks like a lot of money.
Well, somebody in this country has got to work for a living.
Never mind. I'll make you a nice hot cup of cocoa and you can get a good night's sleep. You've earned it.
Once more with feeling, I will try once again. I will try to explain myself to you. I may be down, but you know I've been around. And every time I've seen those gray skies turn to blue. It's tough at the top, but rougher at the bottom. And positively boring in between. I don't lose my head, I just try to make some bread and get to places that I have never been. Eventually, some good luck will come along. Eventually, I'll get it right instead of wrong. Because I know that one fine day, Lady Luck will call and say, Mr. Muggins, Mr. Muggins, Mr. Muggins.